Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today is Friday, March 15th, 2024, and I'd like to welcome you to the Southern Maryland delegation meeting. I'm Delegate Patterson, and we again welcome all of you here. We have a very full schedule, but before that, I'm going to ask Delegate Todd Morgan if he's, oh, great. I had a backup just in case.
Thank you, ma'am. We're right on time.
If he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by Delegate Long with a prayer.
Ladies and gentlemen, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I wore my American tie today.
Thank you so much. Delegate Long.
Good morning. Let's pray. God, we thank you for this morning. We thank you because this is indeed the day that you have made. We make the choice to rejoice and be glad within it. We thank you for this session and this time with our colleagues. We ask for strength, stamina, and your guidance as we sojourn throughout the remainder of this session, that we can bring back benefits for our community. We pray all these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Thank you so very, very much. We are really excited today. And as I was looking at the agenda, I thought it's so appropriate to have the Secretary of Agriculture and all the other agencies with us today because it's springtime. And so we're very honored to have you with us. At 9:20, Congressman Sidney Hoyer will come on board. But for right now, let us please welcome Secretary Addicks.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Madam Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to the group. I have no formal presentation or comments. I really just wanted to check in and make sure that the delegation knew that our department is moving forward with supporting and being very engaged in the legislative process for a number of bills, a number that are focused on bay restoration and how agriculture can be even better stewards of the land, especially when it comes to runoff and how that may affect the ecosystem. And also that we're focusing a whole bunch on food and food production and food insecurity. And it was said in a cabinet meeting not too long ago that if we're not growing food, if we're not supporting our food insecurity efforts, then what are we doing? In Maryland, we have a situation right now where we have, I'll just say, outsourced our food production. We grow some, but when it comes to making products, value-added products, think milk and cheese and of course some of the other fun stuff, wine, beer, spirits, but milk, cheese, jams, jellies, a lot of that goes out of state in raw form and comes back as those finished products. We've made it very difficult to produce food products here, and we have a commitment of the other agencies in the state that deal with regulations, both at the state and county level, to streamline things and make it better so that we can get back to where we were and where we really need to be, which is to take this incredibly viable, valuable industry and make sure that it is not just growing for animal feed, but it's actually growing food. The last two other quick things that I'll say, I've been really, really thrilled and heartened to see that we have new entrants in the agriculture space. It's not old, long-term landowners, although there are still some great ones in the state that are under their third, fourth, fifth generation of family operating farms, and we love them dearly. But we're seeing so many new entrants into the agriculture space. And what I love about it is that they are coming with the mission of growing food, and you're seeing a lot of fresh produce, and you're seeing fruit. You're seeing people leaning into the idea that we should be self-sufficient in Maryland. We have people who of course, all of us eat, but there are people who need to be fed. that they are food insecure, and we are the solution to that. And so many new farmers are coming in, and they're not coming in with big acreage, and many times they're coming in with no acreage. They are leasing land. They're working through partners like the Department of Natural Resources, who owns a lot of land around the state, and we've worked with them to retool some of their leases to make sure that their leases work for food production, that it's a 3, 5, 10 year lease rather than a year over year lease. So food production and the fact that we've got so many new entrants is thrilling to see. And then my last point will be we're leaning into agriculture education. I see some of our ag ed partners on here, and this can be a bit of an announcement to them that we will be hosting at MDA at some point this summer a summit focused on ag education. And Suzanne, you're gonna and your organization is gonna take a leading role in that. So we'll be reaching out soon to pick a date that works for you. Why ag education? Because if you're not in a farming area, in Maryland, you are no longer exposed to where your food comes from. And so many of our children, who, by the way, become policymakers, don't understand where food comes from. And there were some triggers over the last few years, like COVID, where you couldn't necessarily find the food that you were used to eating, or the price went up dramatically, and now you're hearing about egg prices and chickens and high path avian influenza, and how that's affecting egg prices. And there are opportunities to dial in and tune in and learn where food comes from. And that's going to be a priority of ours, to make sure that every child in Maryland, every young adult, every adult has, frankly, no way to avoid learning about where their food comes from. It's going to make our policies a whole bunch better. It's going to make fresh local food in schools a whole bunch easier once people have clear connection and understanding to where food comes from, because we all don't live on or near farms anymore. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions and really appreciate you making time for us this morning.
Well, we certainly appreciate the update. And really, I'm really excited to find out that there are some new initiatives and ways of agricultural modification. And a personal note, my granddaughter lives in Alabama, and she advised me the last time we talked, that she was interested in aquaculture.
Excellent.
And that's largely because of her teacher at her school. Okay, Senator Bailey, good morning. You have a question.
On mute, sir.
There you go. Thank you for that, Mr. Secretary. Great to see you this morning. I saw you up in the gallery.
Yes.
And you've got to stick around for a minute, because in the middle of voting, we couldn't introduce you. You were there, and then all of a sudden you were gone. So, but it was happy to see you, and I wanted to just give you a couple updates. I'm sure you are aware, but before I do that, I want to say thanks for all the help that your team has given us, and a quick shout out to Rachel Jones, and how much that she is she's been supportive to us this year. And I hope you saw that late last night, Senator Jackson and I were able to get the SMATIC bill across on the third line. So, and then we were able to get the we put some joint chairman's report language in for you. I don't know if you've seen that in the budget, to marketing of catfish, to try to give you some enabling factors that you can work with to be able to help us. But the one thing I do need some help with, right, is the Lothian grain elevator is closed. And we've got all these people that are going to be harvesting wheat in 2 months. And if you could get that on your radar to give us some help, because the calls are starting to come into my office. I had 2 yesterday when I was on the floor. So if you could give us some help, we'd appreciate it.
I appreciate that, Senator. And so 2 things: grain elevator, yes, it's on our radar. I've been in touch with County Executive Pittman in Anne Arundel County, and we're having conversations. I'll reach back out today just to check status and see where things were. Last we had heard, they had no formal bids for operators. The county is interested in either leasing or selling the grain elevator with the condition that it would continue to be operated as such. But while there were no bids, there were interested parties, and so the process was closed down so that they could begin discussions and negotiations with the parties that had not necessarily submitted bids. So that's number one. Number two, catfish is first and foremost delicious, but also extremely invasive and causing what's becoming irreparable problems in our Chesapeake Bay. This morning, I have the pleasure of accompanying Senators Cardin and Van Hollen to a catfish processing facility on the Eastern Shore, where we will be talking about the need to, ramp things up, maybe change a law at the federal level, but certainly get money to help promoting. These things darn near jump in the boat. They're so easy to catch. So it's not about catching them. It's about having a market to sell them. And Senator did a great job with your Chesapeake Chana fish in terms of helping to adjust the market for that. We're going to be doing the same thing with catfish. We've had our team at the Boston Seafood and Food Expo trying to market and promote our catfish. We've been in touch with external markets. I'm headed on a trip pretty soon where catfish internationally will be a topic, in addition to other agricultural products. But we need to get these out of the bay and on the kitchen table as fast as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bailey. Delegate Long, good morning.
Morning. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. I wanted to echo Senator Bailey's comments on the cross-file for the SMATIC bill, increasing the funding that comes out the CRF. And of course, it's passed the Senate, a little bit of a delay on the House side. So we're going to probably wait till after crossover to see some more movement on that bill. But if we can get some additional assistance in that respect, we know the great work that SMATIC does and their contributions. And so all is not lost. We're working very hard. We want to make sure that the money is still there in the CRF, and any supporting documentation in the coming days that can be put before the members of the committee, respectively, the chair and the vice chair, will be appreciated.
I appreciate that, and I hope you know, and I know Shelby and her team know, that I'm a huge fan of SMATIC, and the agency's a huge fan of SMATIC. And I've said it in testimony before that while there are a whole bunch of groups out there supporting agriculture, SMATIC is one of the few, if not the only, that gets on the ground, builds things, trains farmers in a way, and new farmers in a way that it's expanding the industry and expanding the economy in the region. So you have a secret weapon in SMATIC that is the envy of the rest of the state, by the way.
Well, mentioning secret weapon, Shelby Watson has a question.
Yes, I just want to chime in and say thank you very much to everybody who has supported. Most everyone is either a sponsor, a co-sponsor, or sent letters of support if they have been able to, and others are providing more support. And thank the Secretary for those kind words. Yes, we're very excited. Thank you to Senator Bailey and Senator Jackson for getting it out of the Senate. I was going to include part of that of my report, but I might as well just jump in since we're talking about it now. And Delegate Long and those in the House. I have sent Vice Chair Boyce a bunch of information, a bunch of links, all the documents that we have from the very beginning, supporting the funding and the ask and the sunset. So she has responded to me that they're going through it. She thinks it's a great effort and it's worth the funding. They just want to make sure the money is where they think it is. But hopefully, since the Senate approved it and has confidence that the House will find that as well. So yes, any words of encouragement to the House committee, which I know Delegate Davis is on as well, and others, that would be wonderful. And we want to thank you guys for all your support, and I'll save the rest of my update for when it comes back around. But thank you for the legislative.
All right, that's fine. Senator Bailey, welcome back.
Thank you very much. And I just want to jump back in there for everybody on the call just to understand, and it would be very brief. The Cigarette Restitution Fund, Maryland gets a part of that every time a cigarette is sold anywhere in the United States. We're now at $128 million is what the state is taking in this year. Right. So as far as was the funding going to continue, if that is a question in the House, as long as they are selling cigarettes anywhere in the United States of America, that funding will continue. So that's not a there's not a question for that. Not to belabor the point, just wanted to make sure we made it. And thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that point, those points, Senator Bailey. And thank you for your advocacy, both Senator Bailey, Delegate Long, and Delegate Davis, because this is your committee. Thank you. And I'd like to give, as kids would say, a shout out or thank you also to former Delegate Rachel Jones for your support and your help with us from the Maryland Department of Agriculture. All right. Next we have U.S. Department of Agriculture Farm Service Agency, John Sullivan. Good morning. John, are you on?
How about now?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, and thank you for having me, Delegate. My name is John Sullivan. I'm State Executive Director of the Maryland Farm Service Agency, presidential appointee for the past 2 years. Our headquarters office is in Annapolis. We have 21 county offices throughout the state, including Southern Maryland. So I'm really glad to be invited to be a part of your group this morning and update you on some items. I did want to first point out we have a state committee made up of 5 members appointed by Secretary Vilsack. And the gentleman closest to you on your state board is Dr. John Brooks from Prince George County. He's a beef producer. He's a retired medical doctor, and his family raises purebred beef cattle in Prince George County. We also have county committees in all of our county offices, and they're elected by the producers in that county. The Maryland Farm Service Agency has 2 focuses. One is on programs, and the other is on loans. Programs typically revolve around disaster relief and price supports for commodities. I'm familiar that you're not a dairy producing area of the state, but just for reference, we provided historic funding for the dairy producers in Maryland of over $10 million in the past year. We also have a program called non-insured agricultural products, and they would typically be vegetables. And Southern Maryland does have large vegetable production, and we provided non-insured agricultural product assistance to those counties in Southern Maryland. We also have another program called Emergency Relief Program, and we paid out $10 million in emergency relief program payments. Another exciting, Secretary Addix mentioned the Chesapeake Bay. USDA has a program that's just gotten launched called Climate Smart Commodities. And this administration is providing historic funding for incentivizing voluntary conservation practices called Climate Smart Commodities. On the loan side, in the past year, we've done $10.5 million in loans in Southern Maryland, and that's a combination of operating loans and farm ownership. And also, I wanted to mention, in light of Congressman Hoyer joining us this morning, Senators Cardin and Van Hollen have, or are, Van Hollen is tonight having a Farm Bill outreach roundtable, getting input from the agricultural community on the Farm Bill, which has been extended through September of this calendar year. It's a 5-year bill that expired this past fall, and it's been extended for 1 year. So it's very encouraging that Senators Cardin and Van Hollen are reaching out to the agricultural community for their input. And I was at Senator Cardin's outreach, and I'll be at Senator Van Hollen's outreach to provide some input on some minor tweaks to the Farm Bill that could help producers throughout the state. Thank you for the opportunity to present this morning. I will point out that Secretary Addix and I have a great working relationship. We don't do things in a vacuum. We consult each other on a regular basis and are often teamed up together to assist Maryland producers. That's what this administration, both Governor Moore and President Biden, are all about, is working together for the benefit of our citizens. So thank you, Delegate. I appreciate the opportunity. I welcome questions.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Sullivan. And, you know, for me, it's really hits home because in Southern Maryland, there are so many people who are reliant upon the Maryland Food Bank or food.
Yes.
We have the food insecurities, and it's also evident. It's very evident with our schools. And I shared this with the secretary several weeks ago that many of agencies or church groups or nonprofits are preparing weekend food, we call them backpack programs. And they're just, instead of shrinking, they're really expanding. So to ensure that the children, when they go home over the weekend, that they have food. Unfortunately, I don't view it as being nutritious food, but as the secretary advised me that there is no regulation in place about those backpack programs or food insecurity needs. But I'm not sure if anyone's looking at that, but I hope that maybe regionally or locally or some way we can offer more nutritious meals for these children.
Well, on that note, thank you for that comment. On that note, Secretary Addix will point out that there is a farm to school program that I've been involved with for probably 20 years, but it's really taken off, providing fresh local food from farmers in your community to schools in your community. I don't know if Kevin would like to address that, but
yeah, it's really the backpack programs. These
okay.
Programs where the kids get food on Fridays and they take it home for use or for food over the weekend. So I recognize we have some wonderful programs in our schools, but maybe offline we could discuss this
We want
further.
to improve the backpack. Got it.
Absolutely.
Duly noted. Thank you.
So we're on hold for Congressman Hoyer. I'm unsure if he's here or not.
He's
And
not in yet.
On that note, Delegate, I will point out, if I could, that I got my start interning for Congressman Hoyer about 30 years ago. So I give him credit for me being here today.
Oh, he has a lot of people that he's given opportunities to. So that is great. He's a great friend, but more importantly, he understands. He keeps his ear to the ground, and there's wonderful staff surrounding him, including Stephanie Carey and Terrence Taylor, amongst others. Were there any questions for Mr. Sullivan? All right. I'd like to pause and introduce Jamie Torella. I hope I'm not betraying your name, Jamie.
Got it right. Yes.
And you're with us, Legal Farm?
I have a farm in Prince Frederick called Monnet Farms. My counterpart is Carl Slagle. He has Slagle Farms in Waldorf. And
I visited that, and
very good.
Usually strawberry season, and he took us on tour. I don't know if Delegate Davis was on a tour or not, but he shared with us the devastation of deer.
Yes.
To the farms, and really you have to see it in person to understand the challenges.
That's right. Yeah, deer damage is a major issue for agriculture. That's has been one of our longstanding legislative priorities at the Maryland Farm Bureau. We appreciate Secretary Addix's support in hosting the Deer Summit earlier this year, and hope that we can work towards some solutions. I know that there have been several pieces of legislation Senator Bailey has supported, and many of you as well, to help us get that under control. But it is a serious problem and does need to be addressed. And not just from the crop damage side, but also, deer are a public health issue. A lot of the tick-borne diseases are exacerbated by the exploding deer population. And so, we have to think about this a little bit more broadly as well, how it's affecting our community.
Absolutely. All right, while we're waiting for Congressman Hoyer, Shelby, do you want to continue your update, please?
Yes, ma'am, I can certainly do that. I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to share screen here. 1 second. Please let me know if you can see.
We can see it.
Wonderful. Okay, so I just want to do a quick update on some of the great work that SMATIC is doing with the support from you all and with support from and the region, including those on the call, Secretary Addicks, Farm Bureau, and others. So we serve a little over 2,000 farms on a little over 205,000 acres in the southern region. Of course, it's the 5 Southern Maryland counties for our purposes, since SMATIC was created out of the CRF for the 5 counties. We do have a couple of programs that go statewide, so we'll talk about those in a minute. This is from our end of year report for 2023. So we had 454 farms that directly benefited from SMATIC marketing resources and events. 22 farms were awarded our SMATIC Farmer Mini Grant, helping them diversify their farms, start new projects there, or helping young farmers break in. We awarded $14,500 to regional youth through our Southern Maryland Youth sponsorships. That includes the junior program and SMILE program. That's for youth and livestock. Over $15,000 through SMATIC sponsorships and scholarships. Sponsorships to various organizations, various agricultural themed events, and then for scholarships to students or those adults doing continuing education. We have an equipment grant program that's available for all 5 counties, and all 5 counties have a subset of it. We did an equipment grant that was a little over $93,000. That provides equipment like, no-till drills and seeders and hay rakes and things of that nature, post pounders that are available to anybody who wants to rent them from the county they're in for a very low cost. Those are mostly hosted by the County Soil Conservation District, the County Farm Bureau, and then there's one nonprofit in the same area that actually runs that out of the farmers market. We partner with MARBIDCO, the Maryland Agricultural Resource-Based Industry Development Corporation, most of you know Steve McHenry, on a few of their grants and loans. It helps subsidize some of that cost. So almost $30,000 there was provided through that program. We hosted 13 SMATIC workshops and events. Very happy to get back into those after COVID. And we had at least a little over 1,000 people that actually attended the Biological Challenge celebration. I have one more that I'm going to share for you here. Alrighty. So moving into some of our larger projects, which Secretary Addicks alluded to, we have the Regional Agricultural Center, also known as the RAC, which you all know is our partnership with St. Mary's County. We are partnering on that project. St. Mary's County is now in charge of it. There's been some delays, of course, over the years with permitting, with COVID, with availability of materials, with cost increases, with inflation, but we are working, and we actually just had a recent meeting to get that up. And if everything in the county stays in the timeline they were giving us at this moment, we are looking at a groundbreaking this fall. So fingers crossed. Talking about one of our very popular statewide programs, the Maryland Market Money Program, which is a program that matches food dollars for those WIC, SNAP, FMMP, and senior FMMP participants at farmers markets across the state. SMATIC does host the program along with the Maryland Department of Agriculture, and we now have 60 plus farmer access points. When we say an access point, it's a farm stand on farm, a farmer's market, or a CSA, including 26 Southern Maryland locations of that 60. We have over 720 farmers and watermen and producers statewide that are in that program. So not only do the low-income folks who need that fresh food get extra money for fresh food for their families, the farmers get more money in their pockets at those access points, and it helps boost the small business economy. So it really just is. So bottom line, SMATIC is good for Maryland, not just in Southern Maryland, but statewide. And we thank you guys for your support over the years. It's instrumental to what we do, especially as we seek our permanent funding. And we're moving that sense out. And I've got one more thing to share with you that is super exciting. And hopefully most of you have gotten this invitation. All right. This is the Grandma's Hands Film Festival premiere. We're very excited that we partnered with a local firm to create a documentary on food and farming and families in Southern Maryland. They are doing, we are partnering with the Heritage area. We actually got the grant from them to create this. And there is a film debut in Annapolis at Governor Calvert House coming up on March 19th. And it will be set up like a film premiere, red carpet style. The 6 Southern Maryland families will be there. The tickets are open. They are free, but you do need to RSVP because we do have a head count. And I think they are in that head count of almost 250 people. So if you want to come, which we highly encourage, it's a celebration of food and farming and heritage through the centuries that we have been around. Both the European traditions and the African American traditions as well, and why that matters and why that's important. So you all should have gotten invites for this. If you didn't, let me know. I'll resend them. And you can just RSVP if you would. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for your help with the bill. We appreciate everyone here on this call and other work that you do with us. And I will yield my time.
Shelby, thank you very, very much. I'm looking forward to the film debut of Grandma's Hands. Should be very interesting. Also, would you remind us again about the ribbon cutting? Did you say ribbon cutting or groundbreaking?
It would be a groundbreaking. It's
groundbreaking.
And St. Mary's County and the health department are working through hopefully what should be their last issues. The contract bid is supposed to go out for the construction folks at the end of April if they stay on the timeline. And they're thinking that groundbreaking would be in the fall. We've said October, but we've been told October. So I would keep everyone updated on that. When we do the actual groundbreaking, it will be a big thing. We will invite everybody. We'll get hard hats and shovels and take photos, and it will be an event.
Oh, that's great. Long overdue, right? Any questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for being very flexible. I appreciate that. The specialty license plates, Dr. Jana Davis and Suzanne Richards, who are you with the Maryland Agriculture Education Foundation. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us today. And as soon as the congressman hops on, if we don't see him, just let me know and I'll stop talking and we can switch right over.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. So thank you so much for having both of us here today. Suzanne from MAVE, Maryland Agriculture Education Foundation, and I represent the 2 specialty license plates in Maryland, the Ag Tag and the Bay Plate. So we're different organizations, but we often come together to let you know what the license plates do in your districts. As you know, the license plates go through the legislature, and my organization, the Chesapeake Bay Trust, was actually created by you all in the 80s. So I'll go first for just 2 or 3 minutes and then turn it over to Suzanne. The Chesapeake Bay Trust was created again by you all in the 80s to complement the work of sort of state agencies on the ground. And our goal is to empower community-based organizations to do their own work and play a role in this sort of natural resources story. We feel very strongly that if communities, churches, synagogues, mosques, homeowners associations, nonprofit organizations, schools, and teachers own their own work and get their work done, they'll sort of love it and nurture it and sustain it longer than if somebody comes in from the outside and does that same work in their communities. And so we were set up primarily as a grant-making organization, and some of you I know us well. Senator Bailey knows us really well. Delegate Morgan was on the trust board. Thank you, Delegate, and Delegate Davis and Delegate Long know us really well from work on ENT. And so again, Bay Plate, we'll just do a little show and tell here. And I'm going to see if I can share my screen really quickly. We're very transparent. So again, the Chesapeake Bay Trust created by you all. So we report back to you and let you know what we're doing with the resources that you entrust us with. We send you an annual report every year. It looks like this for this year. So if that's on your desk, it may look familiar. And we list every single award that we make every year. And actually, we're honored to be here in Ag Day. We feel like natural resources, ag, and environment are all part of the same story. We make a lot of ag-related grants. On this page alone, where a lot of Southern Maryland grants are, we've made grants to nurseries to grow trees for our Urban Trees Grant Program, which in turn has given grants in a lot of your districts. There's a few of those here. We've funded restoration projects on ag lands. There's an example of that on here as well. We have Secretary Addicks talked about blue catfish. We've made a couple of blue catfish related awards. In this case, the Piscataway tribal citizens are working on catching blue catfish and marketing those. And so again, all of these grants are listed here. And we have sent through Delegate Patterson, your team, Kara, I think, a list of all of the grants that we've made recently in Southern Maryland. So just again, so you know exactly the types of grants that we're making in your communities. And we say that if anybody has ideas of community-based groups that should know about the trust or could have access to the trust resources, please send them our way. We're happy to talk to prospective applicants anytime. And again, thank you so much for supporting license plates and just the 2 license plates, the ag tag and the bay plate in Maryland. We'd love to keep it that way. We know that there are a lot of amazing causes, but very often because the number of cars is limited in Maryland, if there were a ton of plates like Florida has, 150, the piece of the pie would just get smaller. So thank you so much for all of your support. I will stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Suzanne. But of course, obviously, if folks have questions, would love to answer them.
We will have the questions later. Suzanne, are you ready?
Sure thing. Thank you so much for having us today. Again, I'm Suzanne Richards. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Agricultural Education Foundation. And MAFE is a statewide organization, but I should tell you that I was born and raised in St. Mary's County on a farm, not surprisingly. And some nights and weekends, you can find me with my parents on the farm. We raise cut flowers just south of Leonardtown, Maryland. So I come at all this very organically. MAFE offers programs supported by the ag tag from the elementary through post-secondary level. And one of our most popular ones is, I'm going to use the old time screen share here, mobile labs that go to elementary schools. The students are able to file in class by class. There are lab countertops on each side of the lab. They team up in pairs and do a scientific experiment that is related to agriculture. It's a whole lot of fun for the students. The teachers love it. A lot of times it's the students' first introduction to scientific practices. And so we actually visited 26 different elementary schools in the Southern Maryland region last year. We have a partnership with St. Mary's County Farm Bureau and St. Mary's County Public Schools, in which they visit 1/5 of the elementary schools every year. And in that way, by the end of that 5th year, every student in the elementary schools in St. Mary's County has had an opportunity to experience our lab. And I do see that Congressman Hoyer is starting to come on right now. This might be a good point for me to pause, I think.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, because what you shared about the elementary lab experiments is very interesting, as all the conversation. Congressman Hoyer, good morning.
Hi there.
We are certainly delighted to have you with us, and I know you've been held up by other meetings, but
I was on with Prince George's, so a lot of them. Glenn Ivey and I were presenting to Prince George, but we're glad to be with you. I'm glad to be with you. I don't know, Glenn's not here, but you know, we share Prince George's County. But I've got you all to myself. That's either good news or bad news, depending upon your perspective.
It's always good news. You're on. Good morning.
Well, look, I'm pleased to be with you. I'm going to be brief. I know you're busy, and I'm 10 minutes late, but I'm glad to have this opportunity to sit down with you in a virtual way. And bring you up to date. First of all, as you know, the most important thing we're doing immediately and this coming week is to make sure the government stays open. I mean, particularly the Defense Department. Frankly, this has been the worst appropriation process I think I have ever seen in the 43 years that I've been in the House of Representatives. And it was a session that some of our friends in the majority were saying, look, we're going to get this done on time. We're going to do it by the end of the fiscal year. The end of the fiscal year was last September 30th, and we are now approximately 6 months later, still not got half the government. We've funded half the government, not half, about a fourth of the government, smaller bills last week. And this week, this coming week, we're supposed to do the balance. Hopefully we'll do that. That's very important, obviously, for those of us in Southern Maryland, particularly for our bases, but also for every employee that works for the federal government, a large number of which work in our district, 82,000 federal employees in our district. Now, a lot of those in Prince George's County. I don't have it broken out by the 3 counties, but the fact of the matter is critically important that we make sure that our people who are working have a job to go to. And we'll get a paycheck either on a week or bi-weekly or monthly basis. So that's the most important thing and most immediate thing we're working on this coming week. I know all of you are concerned about it. On that issue, by the way, the federal employees over the last 2 years have gotten a very substantial cost of living increase. They're still not even with the private sector, but there was a very good, they got a 4% and a 5.2% COLA adjustment. The president's proposed a 2% this time. So in the 3 years, that has meant a lot of economic boost for our region, and particularly for St. Mary's County and Charles County, as well as Calvert County, with respect to the dollars in the pockets of our constituents in Southern Maryland. So that is a big deal. And hopefully we're going to make sure that we open the government for the balance of the year this coming week. I'm going to be having lunch with the speaker today, Speaker Johnson, and we'll talk about that. And also of immediate concern to me, not just obviously this is not a Southern Maryland issue, but frankly, our allies, the brave people of Ukraine, really need a lot of help, and I was hoping that we would have done it 6 months ago, but we haven't done it yet. We need to do it this coming week because we're going to be leaving on the 22nd for a 2-week district work period, we call it, which is a very important period. You guys work for 90 days, but we work around the year, but we take times to come home, listen to people, have town meetings, reach out, as all of you do on a regular basis, to your constituents. So that's what we're going to be doing for 2 weeks. And to leave Ukraine unfunded for 2 weeks is, I think, inexcusable and dangerous, and a very, very bad message for America to send to the rest of the world, both our friends and our foes. Our friends are wondering whether they can count on us, and our foes are wondering whether or not, in fact, America will respond to defend freedom and democracy here and around the world, as John Kennedy said in his speech, and Ronald Reagan said in a number of his speeches. So that's what we're doing immediately. Now, let me go back. Obviously, during the pandemic, the federal level, we gave very, very substantial resources to the states. Those of you who were in the legislature then, I think most of you were, you understand how that empowered the states to respond effectively so that America, better than any other country in the world, got through the pandemic without a major recession. That doesn't mean we didn't have some economic problems for people. We did. But for the most part, America came through that better than any other country on earth. We have also now passed legislation which has given substantial help in so many different areas to our region and to Southern Maryland in infrastructure, in assistance for climate issues, dealing with the Chesapeake Bay and others. Let me go through just a few things. We also did some community project funding, which the Republicans reinstituted. I think that was a good thing for them to do. And in St. Mary's County, for community project funding, which is funding that the members of Congress add on to a bill, and there's a cap on that But that's so that a local member of Congress has some ability to help in areas of his or her district where help is needed. And both Republicans and Democrats participate in this, and it's done by the member, and the projects are vetted and made sure that they are worthwhile projects. And you cannot fund a private project. These are largely state government, public, and nonprofit. So in St. Mary's County, we got 14 plus or almost $15 million for projects that were needed here. $4.5 million for Charles County, $2.35 million for Calvert County, and $21.86 for Southern Maryland as a whole. Pax River, obviously a big interest of us in Southern Maryland, not just in St. Mary's County, but in Calvert and in Charles. We prevented the Navy from removing our one-star admiral. Now, the importance of that is because we have a one-star admiral on board, so to speak, it gives us a status in the Navy, in the decision making that is very important to protect the assets that we have in Southern Maryland. We also, Governor Moore came down and visited Pax River on February 2nd, spent some time. That was his first visit. We're going to have him back. Very important, as you know. It's one of the major assets, not only to our county, but major assets to the state. And therefore, having the governor's attention and focus on that to make sure that we keep the assets whole that we have at Pax River. We also prevented an onshore wind turbine project in 2014 that I worked on very, very hard, which would have impacted our some of our technology that we have on base to identify airplanes that are flying in or flying objects that are coming into us. And the windmill would have disrupted that technology. And that was according to MIT. And so we were successful and by the way, bragging a little bit, I suppose, we were the only opposition to one of those projects that prevailed in the country, if you can believe that. And it was a very important victory for us there. And in addition to that, as you know, we were looking at offshore wind, and there were a couple of sites that they were looking at, and this is just this year, looking at that were harmful, again, to our technology on base, in which we'd invested millions of dollars. They decided not to continue to look at those two sites and are looking at alternative sites. Over the years at Pax River, we've done about $500 million over the years at Pax River. And the importance of that is we have the assets that will then keep the activities going, and it's up-to-date assets. The anechoic chamber is one of the biggest of those that I think some of you that have visited Pax know about the anechoic chamber, which our Air Force competitors said, oh, well, you'll never keep that busy. In fact, we could keep the anechoic chamber, and that's anti-echo chamber. I don't know how many of you have been in the chamber, but what it is you can create an air combat environment by computers and technology, which means you don't have to fly it outside. So which means nobody can see you. Satellites aren't watching your tests. And you save money because you don't have to light up the burner. So there are a lot of assets to the anechoic chamber. And in our anechoic chamber, you can do a large plane, or you can do two fighter jets or something of that nature and see how they interface with one another. So a very, very important facility for us to have. They could be busy 3 8-hour shifts a day. They service the Purple, all the services, and they service the private sector, and they serve international clients. So it is a wonderful facility we have there. And so we've done it well at PAX. Going to be in Indian Head this coming Tuesday, looking to make sure that we're whole there. As you know, we almost lost Indian Head about 15, 20 years ago in the early 90s. But we've had a big victory in BRAC on Indian Head. So Indian Head remains a very strong, viable base. And the town of Indian Head is becoming, under its mayor, it's young mayor, but he's now getting older because he's been there for a little while now and he's doing a good job. But Indian Head is a very viable facility. And if we had another BRAC, I think we'd still be in good shape at Indian Head. So those are some of the things we're doing. And I won't go into all the things we've done at the federal level in terms of assisting with healthcare costs. One of the things you ought to know for your own constituents when they talk to you about insulin, which used to cost $300, $400, $500, $600 for people, is now $35. So that's $400 a year, about maybe a little more than that. And so a big deal. We've also kept the Affordable Care Act subsidies so that people at the lower end of the scale can still have affordable health care and be insured, which we think makes sure that people are healthier and therefore less expensive to the medical community and to themselves by staying healthy. Okay, well, that's a little bit of background, keeping the government open. By the way, although it's not in our county, it's going to have a big effect on our county. And that is, as you know, we had a big victory on the Federal Bureau of Investigation coming to Prince George's County, Greenbelt. And that will be 8,000 people, 8,000 very highly skilled law enforcement folks, the premier law enforcement agency in the world, really. And so that was a really big victory for the 5th Congressional District, and will have an effect on Southern Maryland in the terms of, I think we'll get some people who want to come and live in Southern Maryland as opposed to someplace else because that facility is located here. So I think that was a big victory for us. Okay, let me stop with that. And Doctor, let me yield back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Congressman Hoyer. As always, you have so much information, and I really appreciate that. I have one request. If someone on your staff could send us the summation you offered regarding the funding for Southern Maryland. That's always good news, and we want to make sure that we include it in our newsletters that we send out.
We'll do that.
Are there any questions of Congressman Hoyer?
I see my neighbor on the Zoom here, got his hand on his chin, very thoughtful looking. Jack, Jack Bailey lives just down the road from me, and he and I have become good.
Oh, yeah, Senator Bailey.
He's doing a great job.
Absolutely, Senator Bailey.
Thank you very much, Congressman, and as always, a pleasure to see you. I wanted to bring, one bill to your attention, and it's something that got started around Goddard. And Delegate Kevin Harris, who was on here a minute ago, it was his bill and Alonzo Washington, and it was dealing with aerospace and zones and different ways in Maryland that we can start looking at it. And, Southern Maryland delegations always pulled together. And we had a brief conversation with he and Senator Washington, and they've now included it to have multiple zones. They've included the folks down here in Pax River in the bill. And so now Pax will have a say. The Senate bill is 516, and the House bill is 685. And
that's the House of Delegates and State Senate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha.
And just wanted to reach out, bring that on your radar, and tell you that that's that in that space, that's where we need to be, and wanted to let you know that now we've got Goddard and PAX working together, and we definitely appreciate your support.
Okay, Jack, I'll look at it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for all that you do, and we hope to see you during your 2-week. Well, no, we won't because we're in session. But enjoy your visits throughout the counties.
Well, thank you all, and good luck for the next, what do you got, 26 days or something like that?
Who's counting? Right.
Yeah, but who's counting? Well, you are. That's who's counting. Yeah, but you bet. All right, thank you, everybody. I tell you what, I really enjoy, as you know, I was there for 12 years. in the state Senate, and I really enjoyed my time there, and I enjoyed my time working with the Senate and the House now, and good luck to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, well, Delegate Davis, we don't want to infringe on your time. Just a reminder that our last meeting is March 29th, and it's military. Kara, can you identify the groups that will be with us?
Absolutely. Good morning, all. It's going to be PAX Partners, Navy Alliance, Military Alliance Council, and we're also going to be hearing from Dr. Perman, Chancellor of the University of Maryland System. I do have two other announcements as well. Just want to remind everybody that Dr. Wilson's inauguration ceremony is going to be on March 28th at 10 a.m. I know that we are in session, but Delegate Crosby is going to be attending. So if you have any well wishes that you'd like to send, I'm sure Delegate Crosby would be happy to bring those. And lastly, Dr. Abel from the University of Maryland at Southern Maryland had mentioned it was sign dedication, yes, at Mallows Bay, and she wanted you all to know that it has been changed from March 18th to a date sometime in mid-June, yet to be determined. So stay tuned with more details for that.
Thank you very, very much. And thank you all for your presentations. Those that we didn't get a chance to conclude, thank you so much for the documents that you sent. And make sure that you peruse them. And again, good morning and happy March